What if getting rich was never about luck? What if it was never about talent alone? Machiavelli observed something uncomfortable in the prince. Wealth, like power, flows toward those who understand human nature, not those who work the hardest. Fortune favors the prepared, but preparation is not only skill. It is perception, timing, discipline, the ability to see how systems actually function, rather than how they claim to function. Most people chase money emotionally. They react to trends. They follow noise. They seek validation before value. And in doing so, they surrender the very leverage that creates wealth. This is not a story about shortcuts. It is a study of structure. Because once you understand how power concentrates, how influence multiplies, and how discipline protects advantage, getting rich becomes less mysterious, not easy in effort, but simpler in principle. Most people are taught a simple formula: work harder than everyone else, and wealth will follow. It sounds fair. It sounds moral. It feels safe to believe. But Machiavelli never described power as a reward for effort. In The Prince, rulers do not rise because they deserve to. They rise because they understand structure. They understand positioning. They understand how influence moves. Hard work without leverage is effort trapped inside limitation. A soldier may fight bravely and still lose if the terrain is wrong. A prince may act virtuously and still fall if the structure beneath him is unstable. In the same way, a person may work endlessly and remain financially stagnant if the system they operate within offers no multiplication. This is the first emotional shift. The realization that effort alone is neutral. In modern life, many people trade time directly for money, hours for income, energy for survival. It feels productive, yet it rarely scales. It rarely compounds. It rarely transforms into power. Machiavelli observed that power accumulates where control exists, where decisions influence outcomes beyond immediate labor, where authority shapes systems instead of merely participating in them. Wealth follows similar rules. The difference between income and wealth is structural control. One depends on continuous effort. The other depends on position. This recognition is unsettling because it challenges a comforting belief that fairness governs results. It does not. Structure governs results. And once this is seen clearly, the pursuit of money begins to change. Not emotionally, not desperately, strategically. Because getting rich is not about doing more. It is about standing in the right place when effort multiplies instead of drains. Before Machiavelli speaks about armies, territories, or wealth, he speaks about people. Because power never exists in isolation. It exists between minds. In The Prince, he writes plainly that people are driven by self-interest. They are loyal when it benefits them. They are fearful when stability feels threatened. They admire strength. They have an advantage. This is not cynicism. It is an observation. And wealth, like political power, moves through human behavior. Markets are not abstract machines. They are collections of desires, fears, aspirations, status competitions. Every transaction is emotional before it is rational. Those who understand this see opportunities others overlook. A business succeeds not because it is good, but because it aligns with desire. An investment grows not because it is exciting, but because it fits predictable patterns of human reaction. Trends form when attention gathers. Attention gathers where emotion concentrates. Machiavelli warned rulers never to rely on how people should behave, only on how they behave. This principle translates quietly into money. Many chase wealth by copying visible success. They follow what appears popular, but they rarely pause to ask why people are choosing it. What fear is being relieved? What insecurity is being soothed? What ambition is being fed? Understanding human nature is leverage. When fear rises, certain industries grow. When uncertainty spreads, stability becomes valuable. When ego intensifies, luxury expands. These patterns are not random. They are psychological. To get rich is not to predict numbers. It is to anticipate emotion. Those who see behavior clearly move earlier, move calmer, move strategically. And in a world where most react impulsively, clarity itself becomes advantageous. Machiavelli speaks often of fortuna, fortune not as magic, but as volatility, a force that shifts circumstances without warning, a current that rewards the prepared and humiliates the hesitant. In The Prince, he compares fortune to a river. When calm, it nourishes. When violent, it floods. The wise ruler does not curse the river. He builds structures before the storm arrives. Wealth follows the same pattern. Markets rise. Industries collapse. Technology disrupts. Opportunities appear suddenly and disappear just as quickly. Many interpret these changes as luck, but Machiavelli would ask a different question. Who was prepared when the moment arrived? Most people notice opportunity only after it becomes obvious. By then, advantage has narrowed. The bold move early. The disciplined act while others are uncertain. Timing is not speed. It is readiness meeting volatility. Fortune favors those who have positioned themselves correctly before conditions shift. Those who have developed skill before demand surges. Those who have conserved capital before instability spreads. Those who have studied patterns while others were distracted. In political life, a prince who hesitates during chaos loses authority, but one who acts decisively during uncertainty gains loyalty and fear simultaneously. In financial life, the same dynamic unfolds. The disciplined individual does not chase trends emotionally. They observe quietly. They prepare privately. And when the environment changes, they move without panic. This is not gambling. It is structured anticipation. Machiavelli did not teach control over fortune. He taught preparation against it. And once this is understood, wealth stops feeling random. It becomes a matter of readiness. When volatility arrives, and it always does, the prepared do not scramble. They capitalize. Machiavelli warns rulers of a quiet danger: impulse. A prince who reacts emotionally to praise becomes reckless. A ruler who responds emotionally to criticism becomes unstable. Power weakens when emotion governs decision. Money follows the same rule. Most financial mistakes are not caused by ignorance. They're caused by emotion. Fear during downturns. Greed during expansion. Ego during success. Shame during failure. Emotional volatility is expensive. Machiavelli believed that a stable ruler must appear composed even in crisis. Not because crisis disappears, but because perception shapes authority. Panic spreads weakness. Calm spreads control. In modern wealth building, discipline functions the same way. When markets fall, many sell from fear. When markets rise, many buy from excitement. When peers succeed publicly, insecurity drives impulsive risk. These reactions are human, but they are predictable, and predictability is vulnerability. The disciplined individual does not eliminate emotion. They delay reaction. They observe the feeling without obeying it. This pause creates an advantage. Wealth compounds through consistency, not intensity. Small, disciplined decisions repeated over years create stability. Impulsive decisions repeated under pressure create instability. Machiavelli emphasized that power requires containment, not suppression, but governance of the self. Money demands the same internal order. The one who cannot govern spending cannot govern accumulation. The one who cannot endure short-term discomfort cannot sustain long-term growth. Emotional discipline feels restrictive at first. It appears slow. It lacks drama. But over time, it becomes insulation. And in a world where most are financially reactive, emotional steadiness quietly becomes rare. Rare traits accumulate value, and value, when preserved, becomes wealth. In The Prince, Machiavelli makes a quiet distinction between those who possess power and those who depend on others for it. A ruler who relies entirely on mercenaries is fragile. A ruler who builds his own army becomes secure. The lesson is subtle. Control of structure matters more than visible effort. In modern life, many equate wealth with labor. More hours, more output, more exhaustion. But labor without leverage resembles a mercenary army, useful yet replaceable. Leverage is multiplication. It is when one decision influences many outcomes, when one system generates recurring results, when influence extends beyond visible presence. Machiavelli understood that a prince who commands systems commands stability. A prince who merely works within them remains dependent. This distinction applies quietly to money. There are those who trade time for income, and there are those who build structures, businesses, investments, intellectual property, networks that operate beyond immediate effort. Leverage is not greed. It is architecture. It is designing systems that function even when attention shifts. It is creating value that scales beyond personal limitation. It is positioning where effort compounds rather than resets each day. Most avoid leverage because it requires patience at the beginning. Systems feel slow to build. Influence feels invisible at first. But once established, they multiply quietly. Machiavelli never glorified busyness. He respected strategy. Wealth grows not when effort increases endlessly, but when effort becomes directional. Labor sustains, leverage expands, and those who understand the difference stop chasing money through exhaustion. They begin designing environments where money flows through structure. In that shift, from worker to architect, riches stop depending solely on stamina. They begin depending on position. Machiavelli warned that newly acquired territories are the most fragile. He explains that rulers who expand too quickly without securing their foundations invite rebellion. Growth without consolidation creates instability. Power that spreads faster than it stabilizes collapses under its own ambition. Wealth follows the same quiet law. Many attempt expansion before stability. More risk before reserves. More visibility before durability. It feels ambitious. It looks impressive. But beneath it, the structure trembles. Financial growth without security is political conquest without governance. Machiavelli emphasized securing loyalty, building defensive strength, and establishing order before widening control. A wise ruler fortifies what he already holds before reaching outward. In personal wealth, this translates into disciplined accumulation before aggressive expansion, emergency funds before speculation, skill before scale, consistency before acceleration. Stability is not glamorous. It does not announce itself. It is built quietly through repeated restraint, through managing risk, through resisting the urge to chase rapid gain. Those who lack stability are vulnerable to volatility. A sudden downturn, a failed investment, a market shift, and everything unravels. But those who stabilize first absorb shocks without panic. Machiavelli understood that endurance is a form of power. The financially stable individual does not fear downturns. They prepare for them. They conserve energy during chaos. They wait when others rush. Expansion then becomes strategic, not desperate. Wealth that grows from a stable base compounds differently. It does not swing wildly. It strengthens over time. Ambition without foundation is noise. Ambition with foundation becomes authority. And authority, quiet, structured, resilient, creates wealth that survives storms. Not wealth that flashes, but wealth that lasts. Machiavelli makes one truth unmistakably clear. A ruler who depends too heavily on others for protection, approval, or stability eventually loses control. Dependence is vulnerability, not because cooperation is weakness, but because reliance without leverage invites influence. A prince who cannot defend himself must negotiate from fear. A leader who cannot sustain himself must concede to survive. Wealth follows the same logic. Financial independence is not about luxury. It is about sovereignty, the ability to choose without desperation, to decline without panic, to act without begging for permission. Most people seek money for comfort, but beneath comfort lies something deeper: autonomy, the freedom to walk away, the freedom to refuse exploitation, the freedom to wait. Machiavelli admired rulers who reduced unnecessary dependency, those who strengthened internal resources before seeking alliances, those who built resilience before visibility. Strategic independence in modern life looks similar. Multiple income streams instead of one fragile source. Skills that transfer across industries. Investments that generate without constant oversight. It is not isolation. It is preparation. When income is fragile, decisions become reactive. When stability is secured, decisions become intentional. The untouchable individual is not loud, not boastful, not aggressive. They are calm because they know survival does not depend on pleasing others. They know opportunity does not vanish with one setback. They know volatility does not threaten identity. This is the final shift. Money stops being a chase. It becomes a shield. And with that shield comes composure. Machiavelli did not glorify wealth for vanity. He respected power for its autonomy. And when autonomy is achieved, not emotionally, but structurally, richness becomes less about accumulation and more about freedom from control.